Well, my baseball background is I played all through youth baseball at every level. Played college baseball on a scholarship at the University of Illinois. Signed with the Pittsburgh Pirates, was with them for 1 year, and then was sold into the Minnesota Twins organization, was under a major league contract with them for the next 5 years, and then decided to leave baseball and get into the business world. Well, the Arm Care program was initially designed out at the University of Southern California Rod Dedeaux Research and Baseball Institute by Dr. Tom House. He was the genesis of the program, and I spent many hours out there at USC working with him. We did many clinics and a lot of teaching together, and I had the opportunity to be involved in all the research that was involved in some of the development of this, but I was also the beneficiary of being in the right place at the right time, watching this program being developed, and learned the absolute science-based details of how the program is put together. Well, the science part of it, throwing a baseball used to be an art form, and it's not anymore. It's now a science. We understand why everything works, and technology has been the creator of that. We're now able to see things in stop action that we were never able to see years and years ago. So we've been able to learn exactly how the human body works, how the throwing action actually takes place, what the proper sequencing is, what the proper timing is, what good throwing mechanics look like. And this is all based on science. It's not based on the way somebody used to do it or the way I did it. That's not the way it works. Every athlete is an individual. Everyone's body moves in a different way based on flexibility, functional strength, just body type, all those things. So you have to include all of those things into the development of any kind of a throwing program, and this one takes all those aspects into control. Every athlete, as I said a minute ago, is different. They move differently, and their bodies are designed differently. So you can't treat everyone the same. That's why many of these throwing programs with the one-size-fits-all don't work for a lot of people, and very honestly, in some cases, can actually lead to or promote injury. This one is just the opposite of that. Every individual that enters this program is assessed and analyzed as to all those aspects of how their body works. That's all taken into consideration, and each program is designed specifically for that athlete based on his entire body type, his age, his development, because you can have one athlete that's 14 years old that's the equivalent of 16 or 17-year-old in terms of development, and you can have another one that's still equivalent to a 12 or 13-year-old. And it has nothing to do with the athlete. It has to do with just where they're at in their developmental process. This is not something that is going to be helpful for young athletes that haven't developed yet. That typically starts around 12 years old. I prefer, and not only prefer, I won't do this program with any athlete that's under 12 years old. And I won't do it with all 12-year-olds. It depends on, again, where they are in terms of their development. If their joints are too loose, they haven't developed yet, they're in the very early stages of growth plate development and that, we don't want to put additional stress on them. So we ask them, we say, look, this is not ready for you right now. Wait another year and then get into the program. This program is a 100% health-based program. Now, having said that, the better you are from a health standpoint, the better you're going to perform. So basically, as I said, it's designed for health of the athlete, but as a result of improving their health, we're going to improve their performance at the same time. Getting back to your original question about how you design it for each different athlete, it's all based on the assessment that we do, which is where we check their upper body. We're looking for functional strength, flexibility, any precursors to injury they might have or have had, And after taking all those things into consideration, I mean, we check flexibility, we check the condition of their ulnar collateral ligament, which is the ligament that basically drives the entire throwing process in the arm. After checking all those things, we can make a determination then as to how to design their program individually. Again, talking about age, everything's done age appropriate. For instance, an 18-year-old will be using different weighted implements in this program, very different from what a 12 or 13-year-old would be using. Everything's designed to make sure that there's no potential for any injury in the program and that they're going to do nothing but become healthier. And I can say without any fear of question, in all the years I've been doing this program, I've never had a single athlete injured during doing this program. Okay, well, when I do the assessment that we were talking about a second ago with each athlete when they come in to get into this program, that assessment is basically what we're looking at is their upper body mobility, their upper body flexibility, their upper body stability. Now that includes upper back, shoulders, arm, and hips, because the hips play a very important role in this because of us being rotational athletes. We also check, as I said, the strength and that of the ulnar collateral ligament. And equally important is we look for what is called GIRD, G-I-R-D. GIRD is an acronym for glenohumeral, which is the shoulder joint, internal rotation, which is the motion that the arm makes when it moves from external rotation forward into the throwing motion, including after ball release into slowing the arm down. That's what internal rotation is. And the D is deficit. Deficit means the difference between what their throwing arm is able to do in terms of internal rotation versus what their non-throwing arm does, which is what they were born with, which is their natural internal rotation position. So what we're looking to do is to bring the throwing arm back into the same position as the non-throwing arm to get them back to normal. GIRD is a condition that can be a serious precursor to labrum injuries, and it is definitely affects the ability to have velocity on a pitch. The more higher degrees of GIRD that you have, the more velocity that you are going to lose. In other words, it would not be atypical for a pitcher to be throwing 92, 93 miles an hour, and after 4 or 5 years, without the proper exercise and stretching of certain muscle groups, that they would end up losing anywhere from probably 5 to 7 or 8 miles an hour of velocity. It's something that we found to be quite prevalent, especially in older pitchers. And when I say older, I'm talking probably 16 and up. But there are also kids that are 13, 14, 15 years old that have a fairly serious condition of this. It is not irreparable. It's actually quite easy to fix if you know and understand the condition. Many people don't even have any concept of what it is. We understand it thoroughly, and we can fix it completely in this program. What they have to do is, have fairly solid throwing mechanics. We don't want somebody entering this program who's doing some biomechanical movement in their throwing action that, because of getting into this program or doing any, large amount or high volume of throwing, could potentially injure them. So if I see something like that when we're doing the assessment, we're going to talk about that and try and remedy that before we start the program. So having said that, that's one of the preparations that we're looking for. The other thing that we are looking for is anybody that has got a precursor to an injury. I don't want anybody starting this program that's got any, is coming off of any fairly serious injuries, or even injuries that appear to be kind of coming upon them, such as growth plate issues, which is fairly prominent these days because of the workload that's put on young pitchers. So people that want to go into this program need to be fairly healthy to start with, and we're going to determine that before we let them in the program. And they have to have reasonably good throwing mechanics, although we are going to work on improving throwing mechanics during the program. There's a lot of aspects to this program other than just being able to throw the ball harder when you're done and having a healthy shoulder. Well, part of having a healthy shoulder is having good throwing mechanics. And during this program, one of the things that we really stress is quality throwing mechanics, and we actually have different movements and different protocols in this program that help them achieve good quality throwing mechanics. The athlete is committing to do this for a period of 8 weeks. During the 8 weeks, they are going to do it every other day for 3 days and then take 2 days off. In other words, they do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, take Saturday and Sunday off. You're going to do that for 4 weeks. At the end of 4 weeks, you're going to come back in and be retested. The reason we retest at the end of 4 weeks is that we want to make sure that the design of the program is doing what we want it to do, such as remove gird, increase flexibility, provide additional strength, see increased or decreased separation in velocities between different weighted implements when they do their testing. So at the end of 4 weeks, they come back in and retest, and then we will redesign their program completely. Then they go back and do the second set of 4 weeks under the same types of protocols, meaning 3 times a week and then 2 days off at the end of every third session. At the end of 8 weeks, they come back in, retest again, and that will be their final analysis of the program for them. You'll see the entire progression that they've made during the program, and at the end of the program, and when everything's completed, we redesign another program for them called a maintenance program. That's a program that they continue to do all throughout the season that helps them maintain what they've gained, and it's also an excellent way to make sure that they get loosened up before they compete, so that it also reduces injury. Having said that, that's the time commitment. The other commitment that they need to have is the mental commitment. I've said many times, this is not for the passive athlete. This is not for the person who thinks they might like to play baseball and maybe they're looking for a little something to do during the winter, and I think maybe I'll try this program. This is not the program for you. This is a full body workout. It's to be done at 100% effort on every single movement and protocol that's in the program. There are a lot of reps that you're going to perform in this program, so you've got to be a pretty committed athlete. I will tell you, there are lots of professionals and high-level college players right now that do this program every year. There's a lot of top-notch professional football players that do it every year. To give you an example, Joe Flacco, Tom Brady, Tim Tebow, Carson Palmer, all do this program every year. The reason? They're throwers, just like baseball players are throwers. This program is designed for throwers and strikers. It works for tennis players, it works for javelin throwers, it works for football players, it works for volleyball players, but it's primarily a baseball-related program. This program is for throwers, okay? That's why we call it the Off-Season Throwing Conditioning Program, okay? I've had just as many position players do this program as I have had pitchers do the program. The reason? Throwing a baseball is identical. It doesn't matter whether you're a shortstop, third baseman, or center fielder. If you look at the very best guys that are doing this, you watch them in stop action, just as they release the baseball, they're all pitchers. They all throw the ball the same way, because in order to maximize their velocity and to be able to maximize their accuracy, they have to have the same concept of throwing a baseball as a pitcher does. Some of the most successful players that I've had do this have been position players. A number of major league players have done this program. A perfect example is Delino DeShields, who's the center fielder for the Texas Rangers. He was converting from second base to the outfield. He'd never done anything but second base his entire life. Threw a baseball at a velocity of 78 miles an hour. He had all the tools in the world to play any other position, except he couldn't throw. He went through this program and spent some time working with us on developing a better biomechanical throwing movement. He immediately moved into the center field position, is now the main center fielder for the Texas Rangers. The program basically saved his career. And it just so happened that we were able to help someone like that, but there are lots of instances. It works extremely well for catchers. Catchers and outfielders all seem to do extremely well in the program, but middle infielders do great in it as well. It's not weighted balls. It's what you do with them, okay? It's no different than going into a gym and doing all the wrong weightlifting movements. You can go in and say, hey man, I'm working out, I'm lifting all these weights, I've been lifting. Well, if you're lifting incorrectly, you're going to damage your body, strengthen the wrong muscle groups, and end up setting yourself up for injury. Weighted baseball training is no different. I constantly hear about throwing weighted balls. And if you will come and watch our program, you'll find out that you don't throw the heavier balls very much at all. The value in this program is not in throwing heavy weights. That's proven that doesn't help you at all. But what we're trying to do is to develop mobility, flexibility, stability, functional strength in the upper body and shoulder. We're trying to develop joint integrity. That means that the joint is held together firmly and strongly during the process of doing the throwing action. We're trying to develop muscle balance. We want parity between the accelerators that accelerate your arm to throw the ball and the decelerators that decelerate your arm and slow it down after you throw the ball. There's a very little known fact in baseball, and believe me, it's a fact. You will only throw a baseball as hard as you can slow your arm down. That's where the problem with GERD comes in. Your inability to slow your arm down forces your brain to tell your body to slow down before you release the baseball, i.e. you lose velocity. This program is about developing strength in a proper and balanced manner. Recruiting energy out of sequence is a big issue in throwers. What that means is you have the wrong muscle groups trying to do things that they're not designed to do, and this can be a result of bad throwing mechanics, can be a result of bad timing, can be a result of bad sequencing, or it can be a very big result of bad conditioning and training. What we're going to try and do is fix as many of those things as we can in this particular program for every athlete that goes into this program. I don't poo-poo anybody else, doing whatever it is they want to do. I tell you to look for one thing, look for results. The results of our program have been consistent for 10 years. We have healthier athletes, fewer injuries during the season, much better, higher level of endurance among our athletes, meaning they can go deeper in ball games using intelligent pitch counts. They're going to be more accurate because of the stability that they've got in their shoulder. They're going to experience less chance of injury because of the balance and integrity among the rotator cuff group in the shoulder, as well as even in your elbow. So the bottom line with this is our program is designed based on science. It's not guesswork. It's not something that we've tried. We're not, this is not something that you can do, blind, double-blind studies on. The reason you can't do that is because if you tried to do it, you're exposing young people to injury, and you can't do that. So what you have to do is do everything based on the safest possible way and then gradually increase it to find out what works the best. And that's what's happened in the development of this program. I probably have as much data on the results of this throwing program or of throwing weighted implements as anybody in the country, possibly with the exception of Tom House. And I can tell you the data that I've got helps me design these programs so that the athletes can perform better and perform with a greater health, less chance of injury, and the ability to be to have endurance go deep into ball games, just enhances their ability to play at a higher level constantly. Well, first of all, the only way you're going to, common sense tells you there's only one way that you're going to throw harder. It has nothing to do with strength, because if that was the case, the WWE guys and the down linemen playing in the NFL throw harder than anybody on the planet, and they can't throw a baseball out of their shadow. The reason is they're improperly trained. They're trained for a whole different, set of circumstances. They're doing something totally different. They're the strongest guys around. You don't have to be the strongest guy around to be able to throw the baseball really fast. I mean, look at some of the guys who have the highest velocities. I mean, you're looking at guys that are, 5'10", 5'11", weigh 160 pounds and throw 100 miles an hour. It has nothing to do with that. It boils down to one thing. How fast can you move your arm? Okay? So, the kids refer to this, or the athletes refer to this, as the velocity program, because that's the tangible results that they can see on a radar gun that says, holy cow, this really works. Okay, so that's the, in today's world, that's the instant gratification. That's the feedback that says, hey, this really worked. If you do some more of this, maybe you'd even get better. Well, that's why the kids refer to it as the velocity program. Those of us who develop the program and do this in order to help athletes get better and to protect them know that it's a science-based health program. The only way you're going to throw a baseball harder is to be healthier, meaning that your shoulder and all the muscle groups in it are well balanced. They're as strong as they're capable of getting. They're stretched in the proper manner so that they expand and contract in a normal, natural fashion, and that promotes health. So, the answer to it being the velocity program, yeah, it is. Velocity is the natural byproduct of health. The healthier you are, the stronger you are, and the better all your biomechanics, timing, and sequencing are, the harder and faster you're going to throw a baseball. But common sense tells you it all boils down to one thing. You got to move your arm faster, and part of this program is training arm speed. There's very few people around that can tell you how to train arm speed. Well, we can do that. And that's what allows the athletes who do this program to increase their velocity. Average velocity increases are between 3 and probably 8 or 9 miles an hour for most everyone. Some athletes see very big jumps in it. Well, part of the reason they see a big jump sometimes is not so much that they've really gained all that, it's that they were deficient when they started. If they were at a deficit when they started and we pick up the deficit and then raise the level from there, they're the ones that are going to see really big jumps. Guys that come into the program who have fairly good stability in their shoulder, that are pretty well developed, that have been doing a lot of good things, they're going to probably pick up the 4 to 6 miles an hour in velocity. We don't guarantee anybody will pick up velocity because, first of all, I can't see inside your shoulder. I don't know what your potential is. I don't know what's in there. And also, I don't know what's in your head as to relatively how hard you're going to work and how committed you are to the program. The combination of those two, this program's developed about 6 or 7 guys that throw over 100 miles an hour. And not a single one of them threw over 94 when they started the program. And it all didn't happen in 1 year. Many of these guys that ultimately got to 100 miles an hour did this program for 3 and 4 years. And every year they'd pick up another couple miles an hour, but they stayed dedicated to it and they kept building and building. So, yes, it is a velocity program, but that's the byproduct of being healthy.